the phone. He's like, "Don't make that trade."
Yeah, I just heard he's got a 74 rating, and like whatever exactly. He's got all these intangible ratings that I don't like. Madden's saying he's not great in the room. I don't want him in my room because Madden claims that he's not great in the room.
Did you guys watch the show Succession? Have you seen Succession?
Yes, I have. Yeah.
Great show. That's
Very
where
good
my
show.
mind wanders with something like this.
Right, but
Kids
here's where I push back on that.
Okay.
Woody Johnson.
He's not Logan Roy.
He's not Logan Roy.
You're right.
Right?
You're
he
right.
is not a serious person.
You're right.
Like Woody would have to include himself in that whole speech.
I like that.
Right? Like none of them are serious people. But again, I can't sit here and blame teenagers either. Like what the hell would they know? Like the idea that teenagers
But the
are
fact
saying,
that like they're being led in the dressing room and like they're kind of making fun of players, like come on.
But that's what it speaks to the culture and the fact that if you're the owner, you can basically do anything. And you just
which isn't always good.
It's never good, Strutty. When would it ever be a positive?
There needs to be some separation there between the owners and the manager. I know you own the team, but hire someone you can check in. But offering advice isn't ideal. I never really understood that when you hear this owner's meddling in it. Like, that's not really your core business. You might make money off it. Doesn't mean you're an expert in said player acquisition in this example.
Look at Jerry Jones. Look at
literally like the GM.
James Dolan.
Yeah.
Right? Like
I mean, Donald Sterling is the worst one.
Yeah. I mean, he was obviously a disaster and he was cheap and he wouldn't spend money. And that's another thing. It's not always about money. Sometimes it is. Sometimes you look at owners. David Tepper, the owner of the Carolina Panthers. Mm-hmm. That guy's a mess. By all accounts, he was involved in C.J. Stroud or Bryce Young. And he was pushing. Madden was telling him Bryce Young was the guy. It's crushing. Yet there's nothing you can do unless you want to quit. If you're the GM, there's nothing you can do. Can't fight back. You can't demand anything. If the owner says this is what you're doing, you're going to do it. And every GM, and we've heard them all say, I want full autonomy. I'm only coming there as long as I get to do whatever I want. Even they know there's no such thing. There's no such thing as full autonomy. At some point, an owner, whether it's a solo owner or a conglomerate, someone's going to make some request that wouldn't fall in line with your ethics or what you want to do with your business, but you're going to have to bend a little bit.
And then you kind of have to wear it?
Yeah. It's just, again, it may not even be a player personnel thing, Strut. It could be as simple as the owner called and said, his kid's coming down and he wants to hang out in the room. He's going to have to come down. What are you going to say, no?
No.
But
let's say this, guys. If we were owners of the team, would we not involve ourselves in some decisions?
I'd be right in there on Madden, NHL, NBA 2K, or whatever it is.
You own the team, so you're going to meddle a little bit. But I think I know we all know a little bit more about hockey than we do about football. But I would be more interested. Let's spend more money on drafting, on developing. Like I'd be, those big decisions. Do we sign whoever? Kachuk tomorrow. I'm like, okay, I'll trust you, but these are the types of things I value. I think as an owner, but that's why you pay these guys to make these big decisions. And yet, I still would be interested. What's the trade? Hey, what's the rumors? What are the rumors out there? Fill me in.
Well, I'd want to know too, and I'd want to feel like I was involved. Yet, I'd like to believe I'd have the common sense to know that I can't make the ultimate decision on the scouting process. I think what's understandable, as much as fans might not like it is a business, and there are going to be owners that are going to say no to money being available to you. That's different, right? Like, I can reason with that. I may not love it, but I get it if an owner goes, I can't give you the $700 million for that guy. Like, I can't get there for you. Sorry, you can't get Ohtani. Maybe you weren't going to get him anyway, but I can't give you the $700 million. Or you're asking for a little bit more budget to go get help in this certain area. Can't give it to you because our spreadsheets are saying we're not going to reach that point. That I can reason with. But this is totally different. This is, hey, Woody, we've got an idea here. Jerry Jeudy's a real stud that's going to break out for us. We can get him. And Woody Johnson saying, let me get back to you. The game's paused. I'm going to check on his rating on Madden.
You're right. It wasn't he didn't check on it. It's probably the kids just.
I would assume his kids said, "Dude, he stinks in Madden."
And then what happens? They need they decide they need a receiver, and then they trade for Devontae Adams, and then that doesn't work.
They probably pay more than they would have had to pay anyway.
He's older,
and now Judy's in his prime, and he's popping, and he's making it work in Cleveland. Welcome to the National Football League. All right, Luke Wilson will join us in studio. Strutter Dud is coming up later this afternoon. We've got a list coming up as well a little bit later. We've got Pierre LeBrun just after 5 o'clock. Craig Button still to come. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 4. All right, we've sent Al's brother out somewhere in the city with a pair of Leaf tickets, and you have to guess where he's hiding for your chance to win them. I guess this is our final clue of the week, because as of tomorrow, you need to listen for the cue to call, and then if you know where Al's brother is, you could win a pair of tickets. Big ones, too, on Monday. Leafs Jets, 2 p.m. puck drop. I love that. Next-gen game. All right, you guys ready to hear from Al's brother and his final clue of the week?
Let's do it.
Hey, Overdrive fans, it's Thursday, and it's time for your final clue to find out where is Al's brother for those Leafs and Jets tickets on December 23rd, the final game before the Christmas holidays. And I'm feeling some pressure to get me some Christmas gifts and get that shopping all finished up, because I'm staring at a big countdown to Christmas sign right now.
All right, there you go. Tune in tomorrow, and the first caller through with the correct location will win a pair of tickets to see, again, the Leafs Jets, December 23rd. Find Al's brother, brought to you by McAlpine Ford in Aurora. Our family, the Ford family, and you. Full details at tsn1050.ca. So Leafs coming off a win last night. You've got Boston in Edmonton tonight, Strud, and Zach Hyman's going to play. See his face today down at pregame? It's mashed, man. Like it's a disaster. He's got, I don't know if his nose is broken. It looks like
they had to break it back, I guess.
Yeah, break his nose back, and then look at his eyes, and he's going to play tonight.
Crazy.
And yeah, he's a tough customer.
Who do you think
man.
is tougher, you or Hyman for playing today?
I would say me for battling through you two also, right? Like he gets to play with McDavid and Draisaitl. I'm stuck with you two guys.
We're kind of the McDavid and
you guys, the McDavid and Draisaitl. Okay. Well, then
his nose looked like a baked potato. It was so big. How did he come back and play that game? Like, how is he breathing? You couldn't breathe through your nose.
It looked so nasty too, and it was cut. It was cut, right, Strud? So if anything touched it, it would have been so painful.
And he almost scored.
Yeah, nice guy. I'll bet you he scores tonight. I wouldn't be surprised at all. Probably off his face and in. That would be such a Hyman goal. I'm calling it right here, right now. Hour 2 coming up. Pierre LeBrun will join us. Luke Wilson in studio. Al's brother coming along for the ride as well. Hazenbro on the clock for the Thursday nighter tonight. Hour 2 up next. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on the TSN app.
Leafs facing center crisis amid injuries, eyeing trade market for solutions. As the Toronto Maple Leafs battle through a growing injury list and a suspension, their lack of depth at the center position has become a glaring issue. According to Sportsnet's Elliotte Friedman in his latest 32 Thoughts article, the Leafs are among the teams exploring trade options to bolster their lineup. This effort is coming amid increasing competition from teams like the Chicago Blackhawks and Nashville Predators, who have also set their sights on improving their center depth. Friedman didn't mince words about the Leafs' predicament. The teams currently focusing on centers, including Chicago and Nashville, must consider when others will enter the market. Toronto will undoubtedly be one of those teams, he wrote. While the Blackhawks and Predators may have an edge in terms of cap space and assets, the Leafs remain a team to watch as the season progresses. The Leafs situation is urgent, with up to 7 forwards currently unavailable due to injury or suspension. Ryan Reeves is serving a 5-game suspension, while key players like Auston Matthews, upper body, Matthew Knies, upper body, Kaje Jarnkrok, groin/sports hernia, David Kampf, lower body, Max Domi, lower body, and Max Pacioretty, lower body, are all sidelined. The team has even considered temporarily shifting Mitch Marner to the center position, highlighting the severity of their depth issues. This isn't just a short-term concern for the Leafs. Depth at center has been a persistent challenge for the team, and while stopgap solutions like Marner could help in the interim, the front office appears keen to explore longer-term fixes. For fans of the blue and white, this has been a recurring theme. The Leafs' center depth often becomes a problem at the worst possible times. James Myrtle of The Athletic recently added more fuel to the speculation, naming several potential trade targets who could help the Leafs address their issues. Among them is Ryan O'Reilly, a familiar name for Toronto fans. O'Reilly, who signed a 4-year, $18 million deal with Nashville in 2023, might be a trade candidate if the Predators' underwhelming start to the season, 6-11-3, 31st in the league, prompts a rebuild. However, his steep price tag and history with the Leafs, including rejecting a free agency offer less than 2 years ago, make this a complex and potentially unlikely move. Other names mentioned by Myrtle include former Leaf Nazem Kadri, currently with Calgary, as well as players like Michael Granlund, Nick Jugstad, Brock Nelson, Yanni Gourde, Trent Frederic, Radek Faksa, and Sean Kuraly. While some of these options seem more plausible than others, it's clear that general manager Brad Treliving will need to get creative to find the right piece without mortgaging the team's future. Cap space remains one of the biggest obstacles for the Leafs. Unlike teams like Chicago and Nashville, which have more flexibility and assets, Toronto is walking a financial tightrope. As Friedman noted, competition will intensify as cap-constrained teams strive to create room. For the Leafs, that could mean waiting for the market to develop further, a risky move given their current needs. The situation also highlights the Leafs' ongoing struggle to build a roster that can withstand the grueling nature of an NHL season. Injuries are an inevitability in hockey, but Toronto's current predicament underscores the importance of depth, a quality the team has struggled to consistently maintain. Looking back on recent years, the Leafs have often leaned heavily on their star players, particularly Matthews, Marner, and William Nylander. While these players have delivered in spades, the lack of reliable depth options has left the team vulnerable in critical moments. The current crisis at center is merely the latest example of this recurring issue. Some fans have called for more aggressive moves from Treliving, arguing that now is the time to strike while the team's core is in its prime. Others, however, are more cautious, pointing to the dangers of overpaying for short-term fixes. Striking the right balance will be key, especially as the Leafs aim to keep their championship window open. Despite the challenges, there's no denying that Toronto has the talent to be a contender, provided they can patch up their lineup. The ongoing rumors and speculation surrounding potential trades show that the Leafs are at least exploring every avenue to strengthen their roster. For fans of the blue and white, this moment feels like a pivotal point in the season. With a lineup ravaged by injuries and a tough schedule ahead, the Leafs must act decisively to avoid falling behind in the standings. The addition of a dependable center could be the difference between weathering the storm or watching another season slip away. Whether it's O'Reilly, Kadri, or another surprise name, one thing is certain: the Leafs are under pressure to deliver. And for a fan base as passionate and loyal as Toronto's, there's no room for excuses. The time to act is now, and Leafs Nation is watching closely. As the trade deadline approaches, the stakes couldn't be higher. Will Treliving pull off a move that solidifies the Leafs' status as a contender, or will the search for center depth become yet another chapter in the team's long history of what-ifs? Only time will tell, but one thing's for sure: it's never boring in Leafs land. As the Maple Leafs navigate this critical juncture, their fan base remains as vocal as ever. Toronto is a city that breathes hockey, and the pressure on Brad Treliving to make the right moves is immense. Every decision he makes, or doesn't make, will be scrutinized, from talk radio to social media, where Leafs Nation is already debating the merits of the various names being floated as potential trade targets. Among the louder debates is whether the team should prioritize a high-profile acquisition like Ryan O'Reilly or Nazem Kadri, or focus on a lower-cost, reliable center who can fill a supporting role without costing too many future assets. While O'Reilly's leadership and playoff experience make him an attractive option, his contract and recent history with the Leafs add layers of complexity to any potential reunion. Similarly, Kadri's gritty, two-way playstyle remains a fan favorite, but his cap hit and availability might render him an unrealistic target. Another factor complicating the Leafs situation is their tight salary cap. While Chicago and Nashville can make moves with relative ease due to their financial flexibility, Toronto must navigate a labyrinth of constraints to make any trade work. This likely means including salary retention or moving existing contracts to make room, which could drive up the cost of any potential deal. The question then becomes, how much are the Leafs willing to sacrifice to address their immediate needs? One potential trade partner generating buzz is the Seattle Kraken. Yanni Gourde, a dependable two-way center, has been mentioned as a possible target. Gourde's versatility and championship pedigree from his time with Tampa Bay make him an appealing option. Seattle, however, is in playoff contention and may not be inclined to part with a key piece unless the Leafs can provide a substantial return. Another intriguing name is Brock Nelson of the New York Islanders. Nelson is a consistent scorer and reliable faceoff-man, qualities that would undoubtedly bolster Toronto's center depth. However, the Islanders are notoriously cautious when it comes to trades, and prying Nelson away would likely require a significant package, including picks or prospects that the Leafs may be hesitant to part with. For all the trade talk, some analysts believe the solution might come from within. Sheldon Keefe has shown a willingness to experiment with his lineup, and players like Pontus Holmberg or Fraser Minten could be given an opportunity to step up. While relying on less experienced players carries risks, it might be the Leafs' only option if the trade market proves too costly or slow to develop. Adding to the Leafs' urgency is the timing. The Atlantic Division remains one of the toughest in the league, with teams like Boston, Florida, and Tampa Bay continuing to dominate. Any prolonged slump could see Toronto slip further down the standings, putting their playoff hopes in jeopardy. For a team with Stanley Cup aspirations, failing to address their weaknesses could have catastrophic consequences. Brad Treliving's history as a general manager suggests he's not afraid to make bold moves. His time with the Calgary Flames was marked by blockbuster trades, including the acquisition of Jonathan Huberdeau and Mackenzie Weegar in the Matthew Tkachuk deal. Leafs fans hope he brings that same decisiveness to Toronto, especially as the trade deadline looms. Beyond the immediate need for a center, this situation underscores a broader issue with the Leafs roster construction. Depth has been a perennial concern, and while Toronto boasts some of the league's top-end talent, their reliance on a handful of stars has left them vulnerable in moments like this. Moving forward, addressing this imbalance must be a priority for the front office if the team is to achieve sustained success. As the Leafs head into a critical stretch of the season, the next few weeks could define their trajectory.